Hey, Texas Values friends. Jonathan Saenz here, president of Texas Values. I'm inside the Texas Capitol. Today is the last day of the 2025 Texas legislative session. You might see the word sine die out there. That's Latin for, I don't remember what it's for. Anyway, last day. Thank you. Okay, it's all over. There's still some work going on, as a matter of fact, though, to tie up some loose ends on some pieces of legislation like judicial pay. I think the House may be working on something else. But what passed? What didn't? We're about to get into that right now as we take you through some of the work we did on religious freedom, on pro-life, marriage and family, parental rights. A lot of big topics, a lot of big issues that were covered, and we were leading on all of these issues and right in the middle, and a lot of victories to report. So if you like the work we're doing while you're listening to this video, go to our website, txvalues.org, make a tax-deductible donation today. Okay, let's get started. Jonathan Covey, talk to us about some things that passed.
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan. You're right. Really strong efforts and strong victories on religious freedom. Two bills in particular. One was SB 10. This is the Texas 10 Commandments bill, putting the 10 Commandments, a plaque of the 10 Commandments, in all Texas public schools. Over 9,000 public schools in the state of Texas, many, many more classrooms, and the 10 Commandments being one of the most important and significant historic documents in the state of Texas. So now when kids walk into classrooms, they'll see honor your father and your mother, don't kill, don't steal. So many good moral things that bring moral clarity. Another bill that passed that was a great victory was SB 11. This is by Senator Mays Middleton and Representative David Spiller. This is putting prayer, voluntary prayer in public schools. This is allowing for a time of voluntary religious observance where kids can go. They can pray to the Lord. They can have Bible time. They can do something that's voluntary to exercise their freedom of conscience. And this is a great bill that passed through the legislature and is headed to the governor's desk as well. So these are really strong victories, Jonathan, for religious freedom.
Well, and as you mentioned, headed to the governor's desk. These bills haven't been signed yet by the governor, but the expectation is that he will. The 10 Commandments bill he talked about on social media, Governor Abbott did, his support. We know SB 11 is the Coach Joe Kennedy bill, if you will. We expect there's no reason why the governor wouldn't sign that piece of legislation, but a little bit more ground to cover. Did we figure out and define what a woman is this session, Mary Elizabeth?
Yes, the Texas legislature did, and it's clearly defined in law in HB 229 by Representative Ellen Troxler, which is the Women's Bill of Rights, which defines male, female, woman, man, father, mother, because in this time we do need to define those terms. You may remember not too long ago in the Biden administration, they tried to rewrite Title IX by redefining sex, by including gender identity, and that would have ensued a lot of chaos when it came to women's sports, women's private spaces, and a lot of other things. So having this bill will set the groundwork and framework for making sure that women's spaces are protected, that women's opportunities are protected, and just any other area where sex clearly needs to be defined, and it helps gain clarity in law. Governor Greg Abbott even stated in his State of the State back in January that he wanted to have a law clearly defining male and female, so we're very expectant that this will be signed very quickly on his desk. Some other legislative victories, though, were SB 12 and SB 13. SB 12 is a parental rights bill that basically expands what parents can know about what's going on in the classroom, but also limits what can be discussed in the classroom. And so many of you have come to us about different issues of the topics of sexual orientation and gender identity being discussed in not just sex ed, but in math and social studies. Well, no more. That can't be done under SB 12. Also, some other things we've been working on for some time are also in this bill, making sure we have opt-in for sex education, parental permission, and also parental permission for joining certain clubs at schools, especially when it comes to like GSA, the Gay Straight Alliance, and some of these LGBT clubs that are happening at school, but also happening behind parents' back and then teaching them different ideologies about being a different gender or different things related to sexuality. So very glad that we have that clear in law. SB 12, a solid law by Senator Creighton. Also SB 13. Many of you are very savvy on this issue as well. A session ago, we worked on a bill to make sure we kept pornographic books out of school libraries. Unfortunately, there were some legal problems with that law, but thankfully Senator Paxton came back, had a law that had clear legal definitions. We believe it'll be strong and not struck down by the courts, and it provides a very good framework for schools to remove but also collect library books. So there was a lot of confusion with the different library archives standards. Now this gives them a framework to how to address those library books.
Yeah, look, and these Senate Bill 12, Senate Bill 13, huge, and that is probably in part, why the votes went down to almost the last day. They were approved yesterday, and, there was a lot of discussion about Senate Bill 12, some opposition, a lot of speeches that were being made, and so on. You might have seen some attention about that. So we're going to have more information about all these pieces of legislation on our website. A lot of times we take a piece of legislation and then we turn it into a microsite, like a special website just dedicated, what does this law mean? How is it implemented, right? When we start implementing the fact that there are 9,000 public school campuses in Texas, and each one of them has to have a 10 Commandments displayed in every single classroom, right? That's a lot of numbers there. So we're going to be working on letting people know how those things work and a variety of other different bills. Big pro-life issues came up this session, and we got some wins. Megan, tell us about that.
Thanks, Jonathan. Megan Benton here, Strategic Policy Associate for Texas Values and Texas Values Action. SB 33 by Senator Campbell was a huge win for Texas. What this bill does is it furthers the protections for preborn babies by ensuring that public funds do not go to out-of-state abortion travel. You might recall I actually testified at the Austin City Council last year on this issue because they wanted public funds to go to different organizations paying for out-of-state abortion funds. And so what this bill does is it ensures that that can no longer happen and that our money is not going towards that. We also got SCR 19, which is the Texas Life Monument. This is going to be an incredible monument outside the Texas Capitol that just helps to portray the amazingness of having a child and what it's like to carry that child. And so this is going to be a monument that helps ensure that Texas is pro-life and shows the sanctity of life. So those are two incredible wins this session, and it's just been great watching all of these things go across the finish line. Jonathan?
Well, and look, that Texas Life Monument is also a part of turning the page and moving forward away from Roe versus Wade, the abortion decision at the U.S. Supreme Court in 1973. Remember, that was a Texas case. That case started in Dallas, right? And so by putting that monument, that Life Monument, on the Capitol grounds shows we're moving in a new direction that continues to protect life in every way. And so I'm so excited to be a part of that. So many great people that were a part of that. But our good friend Tim Von Dolan was really the heart and soul behind this from the beginning. Took 2 sessions, but we got it done. Couple other big bills, though. School choice, Senate Bill 2, right? This was a huge matter that was talked about all session, and really it got done sort of early that, I'm thinking about it right now. I'm like, I haven't heard about that the past 2 or 3 weeks, but it dominated so much of the beginning of the session. We were strongly in support of that. We've worked on this for many sessions. A lot of people collaborated, if you will. Governor Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Patrick, Speaker Dustin Burrows, but tremendous victory for parental rights in the terms of now you've got more options, right? And this is going to put a lot of pressure on the public schools, who you heard about Senate Bill 12 and 13, because those are things, those bills are results of the fact that the public schools have been disrespectful to parents, have been really making them feel like they don't have a place there. So now you've got options, right? You've got a bill, you've got funding, the dollars can follow the child. And we're going to just see more of that as we move forward. House Bill 100, okay? And I'm talking about this myself because the bill makes it clear that all instructional materials for the public school classroom have to be approved by the State Board of Education. This is an elected body that now can be accountable to the voters on these type of issues. And I'm talking about it because I remember when the standard was changed. And I'm going to be honest with you, I think some people were not all that honest with us when that legislation went through. We had concerns that it might result in that way, and that's exactly what ended up happening. So for over a decade, you've had these situations where there are instructional materials going into public school classrooms, and people have no idea what's in them, where they're coming from. Now, sometimes you might like them because they tell things and talk about issues that you care about. But what about all the other stuff that ends up in there? And so now the standard goes back to 100% accountability, transparency, visibility, and so on at the State Board of Education. Super excited about that. Did I miss a bill? So tell me if I did. All right, we're going to talk about some stuff that didn't pass, right, that hurt a little bit, I would say, if not a lot, because we put a lot of investment in that. A big part of that was Senate Bill 240. This was the Texas Women's Privacy Act. Now, look, House Bill 229, a lot of great things in that bill that relate to this issue, and I think that there's a way to make sure we've got some protections in place. You know, I talked about this at the Odessa City Council last week when we won a huge vote on a women's privacy protection bill at the local level, but Senate Bill 240 really was the comprehensive thing that we needed. The showers, the locker rooms, the bathrooms, making sure you've got a way to go into civil court, right? A private citizen to enforce these things. Removing the fear that people have now is, oh, if a man goes into a women's bathroom, I have to be careful not to say something because I don't know what the law is, or I might get in trouble, right? We saw men going into the women's bathroom left and right here in the Texas Capitol during the session, right? That's how bad this problem got. So really disappointed. And look, I mean, the reason is very clear, all right? Chairman Ken King in the House State Affairs made the decision. He was not going to let the bill move, even though there was a majority of support, Republicans and Democrats, in the House for this bill. The bill was passed through the Senate, and there was a tension all around this issue. And so that's something he's going to have to answer to his voters about. And that's not the only bill that he killed in House State Affairs that we cared about. You're going to hear about another one in just a minute. But we need you to continue to report these things when they happen, right? There's going to be a lot more visibility and pressure on schools because of House Bill 229. We're going to do our best to make it clear to them with that new law that they should not be allowing these things to happen. They shouldn't have these shadow policies where they don't even tell you that they're going to allow a boy to go into the girls' locker rooms or showers. You find out after the fact and they keep it hidden. So we'll see about that. You'll hear some more information. But there was another key bill that did not pass out of House State Affairs because of Chairman Ken King. Mary Elizabeth is going to talk about that one.
Yeah, absolutely. At SB 2880, and actually did get out of State Affairs. Unfortunately, it did not meet the deadline and requirements due to a lot of unfortunate things that should have happened that we're not sure why they happened, to get it on the calendar in time to be voted on by the House. And that was a very important bill because many of you are aware that even though we have our Texas heartbeat law, even though we have the Dobbs v. Jackson decision, there are still women trying to order abortion pills from international providers from all over the world, sometimes laced with dangerous drugs, and taking those pills alone, taking them also against the law, and sometimes dying from that. A lot of times with these abortion pills, you have two victims and not just one. Well, SB 2880, which had a House companion, HB 5510, would have dealt with that issue by making sure that these bills cannot be trafficked from all over the world into our state, and making sure that those who are trafficking these pills are held accountable as well. It was a very strong pro-life bill. Unfortunately, like I said, it got out of the committee very late, though.
That's what I was going to say.
Very late.
Correct me, but I remember it was late.
Very late, but it could have gotten to, it got to calendars, or it almost got to calendars, but because of
there was some
paperwork,
on that, yes.
We'll describe to you later. Like, there's some paperwork that has to be filed, that has to be sent to the calendars committee, and somehow that paperwork didn't get done. But unfortunately, that's an issue still left undone. But don't forget, we still have strong laws. SB 33 will help with some of that because now women won't be using taxpayer dollars to go out of state to get these pills. So we do have some strong pro-life laws, but this is an area that does need to be covered, and so an unfortunate loss in 2880 barely getting passage.
Well, and I apologize. I shouldn't have laughed. I was laughing because, sometimes it's hard to describe what's happening up here in, the drama and the bill coming out of the committee, Senate Bill 2880, out of the committee late, like super late, like so late that I was shocked that they actually voted it out because it was just about dead. And it feels like, when that happens, Mary Elizabeth, that there's no intention of that bill actually passing. They're just trying to pass it out of committee at the last minute when it should have happened weeks before that to say, oh, we passed it out of committee. Yeah, but there wasn't, hardly enough time. Maybe there was, but the window of time was so small that it allowed other things to happen. A report didn't get to calendars or whatever the case may be. And we see these things firsthand, right? We see a lot of these moving parts up close, and you may not follow some of that. But the interesting thing about that, Mary Elizabeth, and a lot of these other bills, 12 and 13 that just got done yesterday, we're here every day. We're the only faith and family organization that has someone here every day. You got to be on the ground to really make a difference, because a lot of things that are happening, you're not going to see through a website, through the live feed or whatever's going going on. A lot of information is exchanged. A lot of things get done and get pushed and moved by having that presence here, and that's what we're the best at, in my opinion. Our office is right across the street from the state capitol. But it's painful, too, though, because we know those things do not have to take that long to get done. Those bills should have been passed, should have been no reason that timing, but that's what happens sometimes in the process. So that's why sometimes you will hear us say, we need this hearing as early as possible. Or if it sits too long, we're like, we got to get it moving. You know, we did our day of action on the women's privacy issues, Senate Bill 240, trying to get that one moving. We did talk a little bit about House Bill 229 that day, too, with some of those events, because there was no guarantee that was going to move, right? And so we got a late push and then got done in the Senate. There's one other bill that I didn't mention, Senate Bill 1257. I believe this is a bill that allows or requires insurance to cover a detransition, right? You know, you may know about the story of Chloe Cole and others, right? They go through what is being described as sort of a sex change or a gender transition from a boy to a girl or a girl to a boy. And then they realize, wait, I don't want to do this, right? Chloe Cole has been amazing and so brave about talking about this. The insurance covered their ability to have that procedure, but then when they want to detransition, they want to come back to the way God made them naturally, a lot of insurance companies won't cover that. Not the case anymore in the state of Texas. Senate Bill 1257, right? Am I right? On that, that's a huge victory. All right. There's a lot more that we can talk about, a lot of other bills we got involved in that are going to be on our list on social media, that are going to be in detailed blog posts. The days to come, we're going to talk a little bit more in detail about how some of these work. We're going to kind of focus on them and give you a longer description. And some bills, it may be after the governor's signature, you'll hear us talk a little bit more about, but a lot to unpack. We got great events around the state. All right. Collin County, Denton County, what am I forgetting? San Antonio, Houston, Conroe, somewhere else, Midland. Check our website and social media. There's tons of opportunities for you to see us in person. And if you want somebody from our group to come out and speak and give a little bit more detail about some of this, you can ask questions and then we can provide answers. This is a perfect time to do that. And also, don't forget about Texas Values University. You want to start getting ready to come up to the Capitol, to go to your city council meeting, to help us with some of the work we do. Go to our online education source, Texas Values University. It just opened 2 or 3 weeks ago. We've launched it. It's live, or whatever you want to describe it. It's ready for you to sign up and graduate to an advanced level of citizenship. One of the reasons it's great that we're doing these events this time of year, because it reminds you that our fiscal year end is coming up. Our budget goes from July 1st to June 30th. So on midnight, June 30th, we have had to raise enough money to cover all of our expenses for the last 12 months. And donations kind of come up and down. It can be very difficult when we're doing a lot of work at the Capitol. It can be hard for us to focus a lot on fundraising. So less than 30 days or about 30 days, we're going to have a matching grant challenge come out soon. Lots of opportunities and reasons for you to look at the work that we did this session and beyond and see there will be a return on your investment at a very high level. So, and you can do that right now. You can go to our website, txvalues.org. You can make that tax-deductible donation. And that's how together we can protect faith, family, and freedom in Texas. And that's a wrap from here at the Texas Capitol for the 2025 Texas Legislative Session.